Yeah, lifestyle lit. I've been legit. The motive is in. I'm going again, but I'm going to win. I don't know when to end. Got me needing residuals for the time that I spent. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome back, everybody, to It's a Lifestyle with the Official LP. I am your host, the Official LP. Thank you, everybody, if you have been liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing this with other people. Even if you've been talking about this word of mouth, it has definitely been spreading. It's been reaching other people. I appreciate everybody's kind words, just kind words of encouragement. Like, I will always lead the show with that. I appreciate everybody who has been, letting me know how they feel about the show. And just encouraging me to keep going, just being in this space. So I appreciate everybody with that. Also, I appreciate the birthday love. Yes, the birthday love. I appreciate the birthday love and all the birthday shout outs, and all the kind messages as well. That definitely, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the people around me. I had a good birthday. Just kind of, just took some time just to be around some loved ones and just, enjoy the day. Nothing too serious. But it was definitely a good time to reflect and just be appreciative of everything that just has, come about thus far, and we're, continue to grow and, just being happy to be happy. So I thank everybody for all that. Let me give y'all I know the holidays are coming up. We got Thanksgiving coming up. We got Christmas coming up. It's that last crunch to the end of the year. And I want everybody to be able to just, if they got to work longer, if they got to grind, to get them extra gifts that, people put pressure on themselves during the holidays. It's just, it's common. It's going to happen. Most people try to downplay it, but it's something that people actually do. They put a lot of pressure on themselves during this time. So I want to say, if you are putting too much pressure on yourself, it's okay to put pressure on yourself to a certain degree, but don't put too much on yourself. Do what you can do. Grind when you need to grind. Take those breaks when you need to take those breaks, and just overall just enjoy this time of the year, and just mark down write your list of your goals and stuff like that for the next year, and continuing forward. So every day's another day. You compile good days on top of good days, and you'll get to where you want to be eventually. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Enjoy these times, and don't take it for granted, because it's a lifestyle. Yes, we're going to run through the NFL picks real quick. Let's get to my Week 9 recap. I went 7-6. Some games kind of disappointed me. I still came out 500. Not upset about that, but on the season, I'm 59, 45, and 1. Let's run down to Week 10. Lifestyle picks. Yeah, let's get it. So I got the Colts over the Falcons. I got the Browns over the Jets. Panthers over the Saints. Patriots over the Bucks. Ravens over the Vikings. The Vikings. That's the first. Ravens over the Vikings. Bills over the Dolphins. Giants over the Bears. Jags over the Texans. Seahawks over the Cardinals. Lions over the Commanders. Rams over the 49ers. Chargers over the Steelers. Eagles over the Packers. And those are my Week 10 lifestyle picks. Let's move it over. Let's keep it in sports, but let's move it over to the association. Let's move it over to the NBA. A lot of good teams, like across the board, there hasn't been just a one dominant team. Teams have been picking up wins. There's some players who are starting to take the rise. I know we talked about Wemby. Wemby's still ascending. And it's just still early in the season, but one team, specifically the Los Angeles Lakers. Right now, they're 7-3. They're fourth in the Western Conference, and Luka's having one of his better years. He's averaging about 40 points, 11 rebounds, around 9 assists. When you have Austin Reeves also averaging around 31. LeBron is out right now. Whatever reason he's out, whether it be the sciatica or whether they have like a game plan to kind of rest him, I think they have a game plan to rest him and see they're prepping for life after LeBron. They're prepping for life. What's the Lakers look like right now, getting used to people not seeing LeBron on that court, or just not seeing LeBron, run the team. Like, it's being run by Luka Doncic. JJ Redick's doing a good job with maximizing his players and getting the best out of role players. And because you're going to need that if you're trying to make a late push and a late run. Now I think LeBron coming in, when LeBron actually does come back, I think that this should be the time for LeBron to fully take a step back. LeBron James' brand and his name already just carries weight. A lot people are not going to look at him as he's just fading into the black. He's not good enough. Everybody knows he's good enough. Now, what he can actually prove is that he can play off the ball, and he doesn't have to have heavy minutes to where this team can still continue to look the way that they look, and him just kind of implement himself. He's a great passer. He's a great rebounder. We know he can knock down the three. He's a great driver of the ball, and he gets in position to be able to get himself the buckets that he needs to. So I think if LeBron just kind of acclimated himself to this lineup and seen himself, even if in his mind, as just a fourth option, a third or a fourth option, that doesn't, if he can come in, just this is probably going to be his lowest averages, I would say. If these are going to be his lowest averages, if LeBron can just be 15, 8, and 8, I think that means that the Lakers would be winning, and I don't think they would actually need his scoring to do that. But I think LeBron's probably going to go for around 20 points per game. But that would kind of be the area, because he can affect the game in so many ways by not trying to affect the game in so many ways. Because the way this team is actually looking, and the spacing and the youthfulness with the players that they have now, I think that it'll just go a little longer it'll take the Lakers the longer way, because the NBA is so wide open and the landscape is so wide open that if they just kind of move the certain chess pieces the right way, that they would actually end up getting further and possibly obtaining the championship. If the Lakers win the championship, that's the question I want to ask. If the Lakers win the championship, do you think LeBron would suddenly retire, or would he really need to go on that farewell tour? Let me know what y'all think down in the comments, all right? Hey, make sure y'all liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing this. That's the only way we grow this. Hey, I want people to comment just a little bit more. Comment a little bit more. Let me know your thoughts. If you disagree with me, hey, let me know. I want to hear from y'all. I appreciate y'all. And, let's build this thing up. And what's the Lakers and LeBron going to do? I think me personally, if he did win the championship, I think that would be a good time to go out. But I think he might do the farewell tour where he doesn't put the pressure on himself to win the championship, because he just won that championship. He wouldn't feel the need to, which he's a competitor. He's gonna want to in the perfect world. But I think he would want the farewell tour and giving the fans what they actually feel they deserve. And he feels that they deserve. It'd be his last year, and those ticket numbers, a lot of money to be made from the NBA and LeBron, through merchandise, through advertising deals, through just, the All-Star game that leads to that. They can bring the All-Star up to different levels just because it's LeBron's last All-Star game. They can market that in different ways. So it's gonna be interesting to watch the Lakers this year. It's gonna be interesting to watch the Lakers just based off of how they're playing, and based off of where LeBron aligns himself with the future going forward. And does he see himself retiring earlier than he would had thought to, or does he kind of stay around longer than he envisioned? So we're gonna see what's up with that. But I'll just give it up to the Lakers and LeBron. We'll give it up to the Lakers. Let's move over to gaming. I know the biggest news that was released recently was GTA 6 has been pushed back again. Rockstar has decided to push back GTA 6 again. It was originally scheduled to come out May 2026. They pushed it back until November 19th, 2026. And they're saying they're citing the need for extra time to finish the game with the level of polish everybody has come to expect, and they feel that everybody deserves. So the first trailer was released back in 2023, and they had a time frame, and then they pushed that back, and there's been leaks, and there's been a lot of questioning of everybody knows what they deliver on. So I don't understand them pushing it back again. Maybe they're trying to get out the way of certain things happening, but it's ironic that they released this news the same day as the Michael Jackson trailer, which we're gonna get into. The same day, like later on in the day, because that movie is slated to come out in April 2026. And I don't know if that was going to mess up their rollout as far as how they wanted the build up to the game, because to me, I think that companies are always going to think like this, especially Rockstar and a lot of these big places and businesses that actually want to advertise right, and they want to market it right, and they know maybe certain time frames, and they want to kind of have, you're never going to not be competing with, there's different there's different industries that you're going to be competing with as far as visibility and audiences, viewership and the time that they consume to play your game, or they're watching a movie, or they're going to go to a basketball game, or maybe this event is happening. So I think it was more of that. That's the only way I could think, because if this game is coming out in 2026, I would say one can only assume that the game is done and they're just doing tests across the board, like having a lot of their game developers and a lot of their game testers test the game, and maybe they saw something or they came across something that needed to be fixed, or there has been a lot of like I said, a lot of leaks when it comes to like different videos and different information that comes out the Rockstar camp. Even though they try to keep a lot of different things close to the vest, it doesn't always seem to work out that way. We live in a day and age where hackers are just very persistent. So, and you keep pushing something like this back, you might turn them against you, even though they were looking forward to play the game. You might turn them against you and just kind of just mess up your whole rollout. But I want to know, like, what do y'all think? Do y'all think the average kind of game player is going to just kind of fall back from this game because it's taking too long? Or do y'all just think that this game is just going to make a ton of money? So let me know what y'all think down there in the comments. Me personally, I'm going to buy the game, but it did just take a little bit of the luster off, because it just, you felt like this game was finally coming out and there wasn't anything announced, prior, even leading up to this, that, it might even hint at them, pushing it back. I know a lot of GTA players that and gamers that I talked to, they kind of had a feeling that they started to feel like the game was just always going to be pushed back, because based off of what they've been the past experiences of with this game. It's been 13 years since the last one was released, and it's just taking a little long, and they're getting people just kind of it's definitely irritating, but it's gonna be bought. It's definitely gonna be bought, and people are gonna go out there and buy that game. But let me know what y'all think about GTA 6. Are y'all excited to play GTA 6? I know I'm excited to play GTA 6, but that kind of took away from the energy for me. So let me know what y'all think about them pushing the game back, and then it kind of affect that feeling that you have in the anticipation of this game. But let me know what y'all think about that.
Lifestyle.
Real quick, let me give a shout out to Max B. Max B is home from jail. Max B has finally been released from prison after 17 years. He linked up with his kids. He linked up with French Montana, a lot of his loved ones. Looked like it was a lot of love and support shown for Max B. It was good to see. It was really good to see. Just when anybody goes through whatever situations they go through, and they kind of on lockdown for that long, you could just only imagine the things that are kind of going through that person's mind, and the loved ones that are lost, and the people that are affected on the outside. So for him to be able to be back outside, I hope he actually like, besides releasing music, I just go live. You know what I mean? Go live and do the things that you want to do first, and then you come back around to music, do that. But for most importantly, spend time with your loved ones and get back right. And I know he's excited to get back to the music, but most importantly, just getting back to the loved ones that have been affected by that. So shout out to Max B and everybody else that's excited for Max B. I did want to talk about real quick. I wanted to talk about this AI charting artist, Zanaya Monet. Was the first to make the Billboard radio airplay. First AI artist to make the Billboard radio airplay. Now, that's kind of how I was introduced. I never heard of this artist. The AI. We've had conversations about AI, and the effect it's going to have on music and what it could potentially do. But when this kind of came across, I guess my algorithm or just the news of it, I never knew about this artist, and maybe it's just a way to kind of for her to be pushed, is you kind of note that Billboard, first AI artist, and now people are finding out about this artist, and now they're doing more research about this artist. But she sat down with Gayle King, CBS Morning, and Gayle King was questioning her about she said, and let me back up. So Talisha Jones, that's the creator of the AI artist Zanaya Monet. Zanaya Monet is not a real person, but Talisha Jones is the creator of Zanaya Monet, and she sat down with Gayle King, and Gayle King was giving her a little pushback based off of just questioning what she thinks, like, people would think about this. What does she think about it? And just kind of her background. Now, Talisha Jones is a songwriter within her own right, and she started writing. She writes poems, and she started uploading her poems and her lyrics to Suno, and she ended up coming up with this artist, and then now we're here now with her charting, and it's been two different sides of the spectrum as far as the people that are for AI artists or the things that can come with AI and the people that are against it. Now, I want to play this clip real quick from Gayle King and Talisha Jones, and let's check that out.
But Nikki, they thought Zanaya was a real person.
Zanaya is an extension of me, so I look at her as a real person.
But you can't sing. So she's not a real, in that sense, she's not a real person. What do you say to people that say she may be an extension of you, but other singers who are actually have worked hard, who have practiced their craft, who are really struggling to get heard, who are really doing the actual singing, that you seem to have circumvented, taken a shortcut through all of that?
I wouldn't call it a shortcut because I still put in the work. And anytime something new comes about and it challenges the norm and challenges what we're used to, you're going to get strong reactions behind it. And I just feel like AI is the new era that we're in. And I look at it as a tool, as an instrument, utilize it.
Now, as you can see, clearly, Gayle, I don't think Gayle really agrees with it, but in her her journalistic integrity, she's just giving, she's just being objective. And but I feel like from Gayle's energy, she kind of doesn't agree with it because you're stepping into a creative space where you just, not that it's easy, but it's almost like anybody can just join. Music has always been it's always been heralded because of the uniqueness of these artists and what they actually put into music. Myself personally, I would be upset if somebody was able to just kind of like take whatever I'm doing or whatever the sound, if they like the tone, if they like this or that, and just rip from it. And sampling's always been a thing, but if they just rip from whatever you have and then they contrive it to just be a whole nother artist that's not even an artist. It's one thing to copy somebody's lyrics, is another thing to write for somebody, it's another thing to produce for somebody, it's another thing to be inspired by something else and kind of make something in that variation that sounds like that. But that's actual real people that are writing these lyrics and getting on the mic, singing these songs, rapping these songs. And it's a real slippery slope, as Gayle was saying and questioning her on, because now you're gonna get pushback from people. You're trying to occupy a space that it should be, I would say, should be gated and should be protected for people who are actually really creative. But the only thing about this is, you're gonna have your different instances where people are now getting more opportunity. People are getting more online opportunities, I would say, when it comes to music availability, whether it be TikTok or whether it be YouTube or whatever it be. Songs are being used on Instagram. Monetarily, it's gonna affect a lot of people in that instance. But the real artists that are actually touching grass and actually touching road and actually having stadiums and tours and stadium tours and going out and actually doing interviews. It's hard to have an artist online and then you don't really have the artist to interview with. Now this Talisha Jones is, I don't know, it comes off a certain way if she's just going and doing interviews and saying, oh, well, I wrote these lyrics and this is me and I want people to know. If you can't sing, you can't sing. Clearly, as Gayle was saying, if you can't do the talent, you can't do the talent. There's other means for that. If a song worked out and she actually sung or singing a song and it didn't sound good, but it still was a good song and it ended up taking off for her, good for her. I would want her to do good. But to actually make it in a way where it's no, well, this is me too. No, and it's not you. Because you just visibly showed us how to just type in some words, and then now all of a sudden you have real vocals and real production. It takes away, it's kind of like a slap in the face to the people who spend hours, who spend days, months, years working on projects, developing their craft, getting better. They always say the 10,000 hour theory. And if you're given 10,000 hours and then in 1 minute you could just click a button and now all of a sudden you just feel like now you're in a space with people who've been doing this, going back to the greats of like Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and all these greats that have been putting out music. And now you can stand next to them now. You can be compared to them now. I'll take it to the artists of today. I know Kalani had came out and said something about it. Matter of fact, let's play that clip of what Kalani had to say real quick.
Kalani has been very outspoken. I know you've seen her. Nothing and no one on earth will ever be able to justify AI to me.
Especially not AI in the creative arts, in which people have worked hard for, trained for, slept on the floor for, and got injuries for, worked for their entire lives. I'm sorry. I don't respect it.
And again, and I agree with her. I think it's gonna be an ongoing battle, but it's like the real artists and the real creatives are gonna always. It's we're gonna have to step up with, against some of this stuff, and it's just more of it makes it the music business has always been deemed as like a predatory business. So it just now it's more doors are opening up and more possibilities are opening up for these companies and these record labels to do some of these predatory practices and cut out the actual real creatives and artists. Because if AI artists start working and they're working more, in which they already are working, why do they need to go sign somebody who's not going to go do interviews or not going to go on the road, or they're not getting really reviews from that artist and anything like that? They can just roll out a whole bunch of AI artists and see how the numbers track and then build off of that. They can start giving you fake artists. Everybody was killing Milli Vanilli, but now when you look at this, we should be giving it up for Milli Vanilli because they were actually out there performing. They wanted to sing. That was a whole different spiel. But it's the same thing, but those are actual real singers that were singing these songs. This is a computer and machine. So I hope it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. But I just hope it's policed a little bit more. I hope some guidelines. I hope certain things are not let in. There does need to be gatekeeping when it comes to the inclusion of AI music and AI artists. I hope it does get better. I wanted to move over real quick to Vince Staples. Vince Staples. I need to segue off of that AI and actually give it up to a real creative. Vince Staples, the Vince Staples Show Season 2 is out now on Netflix. If you have not watched Season 1, I definitely highly recommend you to go back and watch Season 1 of Vince Staples Show and Season 2. I watched the whole Season 2 in one sitting, and I would say he should win awards for this, because if you are of culture, if you love messages, if you love good storytelling, if you just something entertaining, I think he did that. He nailed that all in one. Vince Staples, shout out to you. That was fire show. One of my favorite. Just without giving it away, it's just one of my favorite episodes was when he went to the club. So when y'all check that out, let me know what y'all think about the Vince Staples Show. But yes, that show is really good. I would highly recommend anybody that is into shows, into limited like it's a limited series show kind of season. I think it's about 6 episodes. But they're really quality episodes and don't take you that long to watch. But there's so much like compounded and compacted into these episodes that you can take from that. I'm actually gonna go back and watch it again to see what messages I missed. That's how good it is. I did watch season 1 2 times when that came out. They were just, it's like the episodes are addicting because they lead into one another. Sometimes you don't even know which episode you are actually in. If this is the next part of it, y'all gotta go check it out. The way that the transitions and from the storytelling, from the different scenes and what's actually going on, and you get the grand scope and grand scheme of things. Man, it was dope. Shout out to Vince Staples and the writers that he worked with, and that whole team and everybody at Netflix. Just for even greenlighting that to have a season 2. I hope he gets a season 3. I'm sure he's gonna get a season 3. He's probably gonna get season 3 and 4. But shout out again to Vince Staples. Yeah. But lastly, I say the best for last. Yo, the Michael movie trailer. The Michael Jackson movie. The Michael Jackson movie that's directed by Antoine Fuqua and producers John Branca, Graham King, and John McKay. Now, I've been following this movie. When it comes to movies that I like, and like I'm a biopic person. I love especially musical biopics. That's always been my thing since I was younger. I remember the first time watching the Temptations movie. Just couldn't get enough of watching that over and over again. The Jackson's American Dream. And that movie just was, that was groundbreaking. That's still a classic to this day. But ever since I was younger, excuse me one second. Ever since I was younger and I watched that movie, as I got older, even just it didn't take too long after watching that movie to be, Michael needs another movie, because there was so much that Michael Jackson has accomplished in his life, and there's so much that he has done, and he has affected so many people across the world, like the world, not just the country, but the world. And I always say I was always championing it, like, oh, we need another movie. We need another movie. And there were some people that be like, oh, we got Jackson's American Dream, but it's like, no, there's post Michael after the Jackson 5. There's post Michael after the Jackson 5. And then even after his career, not necessarily was coming to an end, but when he slowed down performing, he wasn't performing as much. There was a lot of different things that transpired within that time that, should be told. There's the ups and there's the downs. But Michael Jackson was such a legendary artist and legendary figure, legendary person to ever touch this earth, that for him to get this movie finally, and when you actually get to see it, because things can always be talked about, and I think um a lot of people's feedback and opinions and their expectations sometimes be a little too high. Sometimes they're spot on, but sometimes they be a little too high, so they go low with it. They're not impressed. And I will say there has been times where things have been promoted in a movie instance or a biopic, and it just hasn't been as good, or they didn't land it the right way. The story wasn't as good as it could have been. They left out different factors. Now, there could be legal reasons, because even with this Michael Jackson movie, they had to go back and do some reshoots because there was a 1993 settlement that had got left out, that was shot in the movie, but it had got left out because there was an agreement to not ever, put that in a movie or anything of that nature. Clearly anybody could have the foresight that, you know, Michael Jackson, documentaries, movies, TV, whatever you want to do with it, it's that for that. So they had that agreement, and they had to go back and do some reshoots. And so now people were wondering if the movie was actually going to come out, and I always stood firm. I knew the movie was coming out. I knew they were just trying to land this the right way, because with a figure like Michael Jackson, you have to land this the right way. People still bring up the Flex Man in the Mirror movie, and he's getting killed. He gets killed for that to this day. You got to land this the right way. That should have never been made, though. That should have never been made. But I think there was people 50-50 with the Biggie. There was people 50-50 with the Tupac. But to me, the Biggie was I think Biggie was solid. People are, like I said, they're not always satisfied, and their expectations be a little too high. They want more. But I think that this is why this Michael movie has like taken all those experiences in a totality and just summarized it. And it's like, how do you tell the story of Michael Jackson? How do you do that visually to be able to satisfy everybody where it's just undeniable? And from the first trailer, it's undeniable. This is Michael we talking about. His nephew Jafar Jackson is playing him. Like when that news was already announced, in the early stages, when it was just a write up, hey, Jafar Jackson's gonna play, Michael Jackson in an upcoming biopic, directed by Antoine Fuqua. And I was already like, I looked up Jafar Jackson. He was already his own artist. He kind of moved like him. He kind of sound like him. He looks like him. You could tell he's a Jackson. So for them to actually make this pairing, they were already off to a good start. You got Family Blood doing it, and you got somebody, you got him playing his uncle. That's gonna, not only because it's Michael Jackson, that's his uncle. That takes he's digging deeper for that part and that role to really tap in. There's a whole bunch of footage and probably things that he's been privy to be able to help him even prepare for this more, as opposed to just it being an actor and they're coming in and they're tapping in, which I'm sure that they could have did a great job. But I think Jafar Jackson's gonna kill this role. But again, I think they did a really good job of bringing this together in totality. When it starts out, you see him in the studio with Quincy Jones, and then they're flashing through different time periods. Of Michael's life, and they're giving us what we want to see. We want to see Thriller. We want to see the bad era. We want to see the dangerous era. We want to see the Billie Jean era. Like, we want to see him on tour. We want to see the effectiveness of the crowd. And I think they did all that in one trailer. And then when you get to that one of the final scenes of Jafar, who's playing Michael, sounding just like Michael Jackson. Sounding just like Michael Jackson, like when he responded to Quincy Jones. And this movie is going to break records. I think it's going to set the tone. I don't know what type of biopic movie you make after a Michael Jackson movie. Your most famous person, your most loved person that you can deem as, being more important or as important, Michael Jackson, they gonna tell you that Michael Jackson they were fans of Michael made a fan of everybody. Everybody respects what Michael Jackson brought to, this creative space and music and just performing in life in general. Not talking to the sidebar things or the allegations or accusations, that he was never proven guilty on. We're not talking about anything like that. I'm keeping it in perspective of who he was and how he affected people and what he brought to just life and just music, just the sound, the Michael Jackson sound, the music, the way he performed, the way he danced, the way he carried himself. People are posting. I'm seeing what's going on now is a whole bunch of Michael stories going on now. People are going like it's like bringing them back to that time. It's bringing them back to that time of your favorite Michael story. Like that was like he was a real celebrity. Everybody's a celebrity nowadays. Everybody's a celebrity nowadays. You open your phone and they try and tell you such and such from over here, such and such. They made the Hawk to a girl a celebrity. So it's like when we really talk about celebrities and really public figures and legendary people, we need to start separating these. Like we need to start separating like post like pre Instagram and internet and all that. Like we need to separate that because the way how people were revered back then is not how they're revered now. No, the way people let me correct that. The way somebody like a Michael Jackson was revered then, he's still revered that now. There was a list that just came out and he was the most successful. He was the top earning deceased um deceased celebrity to earn. It was over like $100 million. And the fact that he's still earning money after being gone all this time just goes to show you the effect that he had on people. But with this movie is going to open up the door to a whole new fan base. He used to already have the effect on kids that were born way after he died, and they hear his music or they see him dancing or they see some, and they want to do that too. They want to dress up like Michael. They want to walk like Michael. They want to look like Michael. I've never seen anybody like this. Like it's never like since I've been born, I've never seen anybody to have this effect on people. And I keep using that word effect because the Michael Jackson effect is real. Even in the Vince Staples show, they alluded to Michael Jackson. That because she pretty much was telling the story, not to give it away, but she pretty much was telling the story of how Michael commanded and he made star moments. He made star moments, and you gotta have star moments to be a star. So, let me know what y'all think about this Michael movie, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Um, I can go on I'm pretty sure this is not gonna be my last time talking about it because I know that was only just the first trailer. That was the first trailer. There was some numbers that I seen that came out. It was over like 116 million views within the first 24 hours of this trailer dropping. Because I seen the poster first. They dropped the poster first on his official Facebook, his Michael Facebook, and it was cool. But I checked the comments and people were talking about trailer. So I actually caught this trailer dropping like 30 minutes after when it dropped, and it started to pick up. But once people really realized what was going on, because a lot of people didn't know that there was a movie coming out, they're not really tapping into different people and journalists that are following and the different like people want to see when it's there. When you see the trailer and the movie's coming out, that's when most casual moviegoers or that's how they're going to get their information. But it spread like wildfire, and there's a lot of people excited about it. I see a whole bunch of TikToks of people talking about when they're gonna be lining up, what they about to be like when they pop out. Hey, everybody gonna be dressed as Michael Jackson. The gloves is gonna be in full effect. They're gonna make so much money off of merch, and I'm glad that Michael Jackson's life can be highlighted and celebrated if at least one more good time. They broke this movie into two movies though. I wanted to make sure I don't forget that they broke this into two movies. Based off of the time frame, because you can't miss certain things. You want it to be young Michael Jackson, and then you want it to be the later in Michael Jackson. Now, I'm sure they're gonna go through the whole funeral because when you cap, when his life ended, the effect. Everybody's going to be revisited of why they fell in love with Michael Jackson and why they love his music and him as a person. When they watch this movie, they feel like they're going to be feeling like they're watching Michael. So when you get to the end, I'm sure it's going to bring up all those sad memories. Again, it's very sad. It's always sad when you just lose somebody. When you lose somebody like a figure like Michael Jackson, the world stood still the day when he died, and the world stood still the day of his funeral. It's I'm glad that he's able to get, his flowers again and able to somebody that's magnificent like him and that, contributed everything he contributed. It's like, why not have this just be an all-in-one, inclusive, as far as quality and expectations movie? Not just doing it a certain way to try to please. Nope. They're talking about everything, and they're going to show different things that we may not have knew about him. And it's top tier. It's top tier. Shout out to the whole Michael movie crew, everybody that was involved with bringing this together. It's fire. It's fire, and I look forward to it. You already know it's a
Lifestyle.
make sure y'all like, follow, subscribe out there. We gonna double back. Got some different things coming up for the rest of this year. We are going to go on a 2-week break to end season 1, and we're gonna have season 2 at the top of the year. But I will announce when that will be. As far I have some videos within that, but as far as getting the daily picks, I'm not going to. I won't continue the weekly picks. Excuse me, daily, the weekly NFL picks because I have some things that are actually working out in my favor. That's going to take this to another level. So, thank you everybody again for checking it. Always checking out the pod, staying up to touch with me. Staying in touch with me, staying up to date, and keeping the content going and keeping it flowing. I appreciate everybody. If you're new here, thank you for joining. If you have somebody in mind that you think may be interested as far as like what I'm actually doing here, hey, send them the link. It ain't nothing to share. Sharing is caring. But thank you everybody again. I hope y'all have a blessed week. And you already know it is a
Lifestyle.
peace.